Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is my September reading wrap up. I'm really excited to be sharing what I read this month with you guys. So I do have a smaller reading wrap up. It's a very social month for me, September. We have lots of like family birthdays, lots of things are going on, but what I did read overall was very like high quality, amazing, some new favorites, so I'm very excited to share with you. Let's hop into the first one. The first book I actually read this month was 0 Days by Ruth Ware. So I checked this out from my library and I was a little nervous about this because normally the premises for Ruth Ware's books are more interesting to me, but I love her writing, so I decided to pick this one up even though it kind of involved like these like, I don't know how to say it. What do they use the words like kind of like spies, but they would do like espionage for companies, so they would see how easy companies were to like break into, hack into, and they would actually be hired by companies to like break into their premises. Very interesting concept. But our main character, she and her husband are like a tag team for this, and they work together. He's kind of like the computer side of things and she actually does like the break-in work like on site, which is really exciting. So that was actually really cool to read about. I didn't know much about that kind of job. I've never really thought of it really, but it was really cool. And the basic premise for this is that one night she returns home and unfortunately her husband Gabe is murdered, like brutally murdered, and she has no idea why. She calls the police, but they actually suspect her and she actually takes off and runs, fleeing the cops. So very high drama, very unlike my typical thriller. I usually read more domestic thrillers or thrillers with like friends and like secrets coming out, so this was definitely a little outside my norm with the heavy emphasis on like the police and this very unique premise, but I actually really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. Not an all-time favorite certainly, but something I really enjoyed. I still love The Turn of the Key and One by One. Those are my favorite Ruth Wares, but this one was definitely really solid. The writing was good. The pacing was really fast. I will say I thought the twist for this was a little predictable. I feel like they could have used maybe a few more red herrings or characters to make it a little more interesting maybe, but I do understand why it was such a small cast of characters because she's on the run, so she's got very few people she can really turn to. So it's very interesting. It's interesting. I would recommend it if it sounds at all intriguing or you like Ruth Ware. I'd say it was a solid Ruth Ware and I really enjoyed it. So I did do a cozy fall vlog this month, reading vlog. I'll link it above if you want to check it out. But one of the books I read for that was The Ghost and the Dead Deb by Cleo Coyle. This is a haunted bookshop mystery. This is book 2 in the series. I just happen to own the second one. It is my first time reading this series. And our main character is Penelope. She has a haunted bookshop and she sells books. And there is a ghost, a PI, a private investigator from the 40s named Jack, and he haunts her shop. And we don't know exactly why his ghost is trapped there. He was murdered, so maybe he was murdered on site. Not really sure, but interesting premise. And she's the only one who can really communicate with him, so they're often having this dialogue back and forth. It's very interesting because he's a very like classically like hard-boiled detective, so the language he uses from the 40s plus the hard-boiled detective talk is very unique in a cozy mystery, but it's a kind of a fun contrast. In this particular story, Penelope has an author who comes to her haunted bookshop and she is talking about her new book and she's releasing some secrets about some people in the upper class and who might have actually attacked and murdered this person, the dead debutante. So those people don't really appreciate her bringing this to the light and she ends up dead and Penelope and Jack are on the case. So I really enjoyed this. I do plan on continuing this series. My library has some of the books in the series, so I'm going to check some out. And yeah, I'm excited for this. It was just a really fun time. Maybe I read too much into this, but I kind of felt like Jack was flirting with Penelope and that kind of made me like slightly uncomfortable because he's a ghost and she's a person. So I mean, maybe it's going somewhere I'm not seeing, but I don't know. Maybe I read too much into it, just a little. I was like a little awkward, but otherwise I'd say this was like a really strong 3.5 to 4 stars. It makes me even more excited to read her coffee shop mystery series, which I believe is even more popular from Cleo Coyle, and I love the theme for like a coffee shop, so very excited for that. Another thriller that I finished this month was A Stranger in the House by Shari, LaPena, and this is my first thriller by her, and this is one of her older ones. I don't know, this one just sounded interesting. I picked it up from my library. This is the cover here. Our basic premise for this is quite unique. This was a very interesting thriller. I feel like it could have used another character or red herring or two, but I thought it was fun. I thought it was structured well. I thought the pacing was good. Our main character is a housewife named Karen, and basically she is at home one night, she's making dinner, and then she ends up racing out to this neighborhood she would never be caught dead in usually, and she ends up getting in an accident when she speeds through a red light. All of this is very out of character for her, right? So no, everyone is shocked. So when her husband gets the call that she's in a hospital, she's been just, I mean, vicious injuries, unfortunately, from the accident, and he's trying to figure out what happened. He's trying to ask her, but she can't remember a thing. So we have this like memory loss situation going on. We have this husband asking, can he trust his wife? We have the wife going, what just happened? And we have her best friend also, who lives across the street, who's just like, this is so weird, this is so out of character, I can't even believe it. All these secrets start to come out from the past, and it's very, I had a good time with it. Was it an all-time favorite? No. Would I give it 3.5 stars? Yes, I thought it was enjoyable. I did call the ending pretty early, so that kind of, I don't know, that kind of brought my enjoyment down just a little bit, but this gives me a lot of excitement to read more of her works, because this one came out I think in 2017, and she's published many books since then, so I think I'm on hold for her newest release now at the library, and I'm really excited to see how her writing style has evolved. I'm so excited. I think this could be a really solid thriller author for me. I'm excited to explore more of her work, and I thought this was a solid domestic thriller. If you've read a bunch of domestic thrillers, I feel like it isn't the most unpredictable one, but it's still fast-paced and enjoyable, and you get sucked in. So I enjoyed it. The last few pages of this were excellent. I really wish the author had expanded on it a little bit more. Like, it left me wanting to know more. Maybe that was her intent, I don't know, but I wanted a little more. But I'm excited to read more from her. So it was a good experience, certainly. Another new author to me was Juliet Blackwell for the Secondhand Spirits. This is a witchcraft mystery, book 1 in the series. It takes place in San Francisco. I also read this for that fall cozy vlog, and I think this is a really good book, and I gave it like 3.5 stars or something like that. It's got the witchy vibes. Our main character is Lily, and she opens a vintage clothing shop in San Francisco, and I love the vintage clothing shop aspect. I'm currently on this like quest for my perfect vintage clothing shop book. I actually just picked this up in my library the other day. Murder Wears a Little Black Dress by Deborah Senfielder. I've had a few of you recommend this to me as I've been on my quest for this, so I'm excited to read that this month. But this was one of the recommendations I got, and I thought it'd be perfect because it's nice and witchy. Lily is a witch. They don't really define her magic. She can like sense vibrations from clothing and items, and it gives her like a sense of who the person was, which is really interesting. She does brews and potions. This is a very supernatural cozy mystery. So to me, this is almost more of like a supernatural book first and foremost than a mystery, because the mystery, although it's a part of the plot line, of course, it's almost more about Lily's discovery of herself and her acceptance of her powers, and her also trying to fight her natural instinct, which is to run. She's very used to constantly being on the go. She's never really settled down and had roots anywhere, partly because of her personality, partly because of her powers. So I found that to be a really enjoyable aspect. It's just very, very heavy in the magic part, which, again, depending on what you're looking for, if you really like the supernatural elements, I think you'd enjoy this. It's very witchy, very fun. But if you're a little bit more like me, where you're not the biggest supernatural reader, you just like it occasionally, you like a little sprinkle of it, this one's probably going to be a little bit too much. So I might read some more in this series, but it's going to be like a very selective like mood reading when I'm really feeling something supernatural. So hopefully that kind of helps. The basic premise for this one is that a young girl goes missing in this neighborhood, and Lily is on the track to find her. There are like real spirits and like ghostly entities and stuff like that, so again, very heavy in the supernatural, but I really liked Lily as a character. The vintage details were impeccable. A nonfiction I read this month was The Gratitude Diaries by Janice Kaplan, and I've been kind of reading this very slowly over the last few months, just kind of bits and pieces, and that's kind of how I would recommend reading it, because I feel like it's a really nice reminder to kind of read this kind of at a slower pace and just kind of let it like mull over in your mind. So this one is all about how a year looking on the bright side can transform your life. So basically the author goes on this quest to practice gratitude, because there's a lot of science, and she goes into some of that in her book about how gratitude can really impact your life for the better, even regardless of your actual like life circumstances and what you actually like physically have, just your outlook and mindset on it can improve things at least a little bit. So I always think that's an interesting concept. I think practicing gratitude is really important. There's so much in my life I'm grateful for, and this was just a really good reminder. I really enjoyed following her. It's kind of like a memoir style because she was practicing a lot of what she was talking about and learning about, so I really enjoyed that aspect. I think it's a good read. It's not the most impactful nonfiction book I've ever read, but if you're looking for something in this topic, you want something to kind of remind you and kind of keep you on track about thinking about gratitude in your own life, I think this is a solid read. One of the best book I read this month. Okay, well, it's tied with a thriller that I'll get into, but the best cozy mystery I read this month was Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murder by Jessie Q. Sutanto. This is my first book by this author. I'm still waiting. I gotta get on the dial A for aunties now that I've read this, but Vera Wong is the most delightful character ever. And I don't know if this is going to be a series, but if you know anything, let me know, please. I'm desperate for more Vera Wong. I checked this out from my library, but I'm actually considering buying this because this is a book I would reread, which is pretty rare for a mystery, but this book is so amazing and wholesome and cozy and everything I want in life. So Vera Wong is this lovely lady of a certain age, as the description calls her, and she is a Chinese mother. She has one older son who's moved out. He's married, he's like has his own life, and she keeps track of him on social media. She's always texting him, and she lives above her tea shop. So love the tea aspect. I think that's great. I love beverages. I want to get into more cozies with like coffee and tea elements. I don't drink coffee, but I love tea, and just there's something about the vibes, you know? So Vera Wong basically wakes up one morning and she has the same routine pretty much every day. She's very regimented, and she wakes up, she goes downstairs in her tea shop, and there's a dead body there. Just there, you know? I don't know what you say with that, but there's a dead body there. She calls the police, and while she's waiting for the police, she decides to do a little snooping herself, because who better than Vera Wong to solve a mystery? And she finds a thumb drive on the victim, and she actually swipes it. Doesn't even tell the police about it. She's bold. And she gets really frustrated because she feels like the police aren't taking it seriously as like a murder, and she starts to identify suspects, and she starts to really get to know these suspects. You're reading from their perspectives, which is pretty unique for a cozy mystery because most of the time you're kind of reading from one perspective, and I just love Vera Wong. You will not get out of this book without adoring this character. That's all I can say. You will love her. You will want her to be your own like surrogate grandmother. I want Vera Wong. I love her. And the food. She would like cook things for people and like the suspects and like bring them in, invite them over for dinner, all these things. The descriptions of the food, wow. But yeah, Vera Wong, so witty, so funny, so charming and cozy and wholesome and amazing, and a great mystery. I put it together right before the end. I was very excited about that, but I thought it was delivered so well. It was awesome. Please tell me there's more Vera Wong, please. Another really big hit this month was Twas the Knife Before Christmas by Jacqueline Frost. This is the second book in the Christmas Tree Farm series, and I loved it. Last month I did a collab with Tiffany from Beach Bum Bookworm, and she picked out 5 books that I'd never read from different series that I'd never read in the cozy mystery genre, and I did the same for her. I'll link our videos above, but one of the ones she picked out for me was The Christmas Tree Farm, which has been on my TBR forever, and I finally got to read the first book last month. Incredible. Incredible. Our main character is Holly, and she lives on a Christmas tree farm with her parents who run this place, and they do reindeer games, and they sell Christmas trees, and they have Santa and sleighing and everything Christmassy on this farm, everything you could want. And they're even, in this book, they're building an inn where Holly's gonna be the innkeeper. She also makes like gingerbread and Christmas themed jewelry that she sells on the side. It is about as Christmassy as you could possibly get. There is just nothing more Christmassy than this series. Nothing. In this particular book, there is a body found that implicates her best friend Caroline, who runs Caroline's Cupcakes. Another great cozy element right there, and Holly gets on the case to prove her friend's innocence. Also, I really wanted to like shake the sheriff. I got really annoyed at the sheriff in this one, but otherwise I love Holly, I love her friendships, I love her family, I love the theme of this. Excellent. So very fun cozy. The thriller that was 5 stars this month that absolutely blew my socks off was Dark Corners by Megan Goldin. So I've read The Escape Room and Stay Awake by her, and those are both solid 3.5s. Really enjoyed them. but I hadn't found like the peak like love book from her, and this was it. I can't wait to go back and read Night Swim because it's actually part of a series, the Rachel Crawl series. Rachel is a true crime podcaster, and in Dark Corners, she is actually invited by the FBI to Florida because she was mentioned by this like inmate. Like there was something involving an inmate who was actually talking to an influencer, and this inmate has been in jail this whole time. No one's ever visited him, and he's about to get out of jail in a few days because his like breaking and entering charges are finishing, but he's also a suspect in the serial killer case. But the police just don't have enough evidence to charge him on the serial killer crime, so they're desperately trying to find clues to implicate him in that so they can keep him in jail and off the streets for everyone's safety. However, a few days before he's released, this influencer arrives and she sneaks into the jail and talks to him, and this is the first time anyone's visited him, and Rachel's name comes up. So the police bring her out there to try to see if she has any idea why her name would have come up, and this gets her involved in the case. Absolutely just brutal. So suspenseful, so thrilling. The ending for this, I had put together part of it, but then another part of it completely blew me away. I had no idea, and it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. I love Rachel as a character. I want to read Night Swim so badly now, and I will be hoping there's more books coming out in the series because this was a knockout, and it makes me even more excited to read more Megan Goldin because I'd found lots of books that I've liked from her, like strong likes, but never a love, and this was a love. Another one that I loved this month was A Sprinkle in Time by Dana Mentink. This is book 2 in the Shake Shop mystery series. I read book 1 last year, Pint of No Return. Loved it. It was like 5 stars. This was also 5 stars. It was just amazing. Our main character in the series is Trinidad Jones, and she lives in Upper Sprocket, Oregon, and this one is a very fall cozy. It's an Alpenfest one, and basically they have an Alpenfest going on, and Trinidad is excited. She has her grandfather in town, and he's actually taxiing people around in his green Chevy Bel Air until a body is found in the trunk. And he calls Trinidad, he's panicked, they call the police, and they're trying to figure out what this body is doing here. This mystery went so many places I didn't expect it to be. This has some really strong relationships in it. I would recommend, if you can, reading book 1, because I feel like it gives you some really important context, but you can jump into this. The mystery was so good. The reveal for this, I put it together, but the reveal was like top notch, like satisfying. So satisfying. So I highly recommend this series. Book 3 is coming out in October. I will link my new cozy mystery releases for October above if you want to check it out. It's called Spoon to Be Dead, and it's a Christmas one. I need to get it, but I really recommend this series. It's been such a good time. It's got some really amazing like emotional moments in this series. The last scene for this actually made me tear up, and I love the really heavy focus on found family in this series and Trinidad's dog Noodles. That's all you need to know right there. Noodles. Come on. That's so cute. Okay, and last but not least, we have Crime for the Books by Kate Young. This was part of the Jane Doe Book Club mystery series. I think I mistakenly said in my vlog that this was book 2. It's actually book 3. But I've read book 1 and I liked it, but I didn't love it. And that's how I felt about this book too. Book 1 and 3 now I've read, and I just... something about the writing style and I just aren't like clicking as much as I want to, because I love the theme and both of them had really solid mysteries in them. This one in particular I really loved because it was based on A Murder is Announced by Agatha Christie, which was a favorite Miss Marple book of mine. And basically the Jane Doe book club who read like mystery novels, and they also talk about Jane Doe like true crime cases, thus the name. They are putting on this like fundraiser party in this big estate, and it's based on A Murder is Announced, so everyone's dressing up in like vintage clothing, and they even, you know, plan like a scene from the book, but things go awry and a murder actually occurs. I don't know if I'm going to continue this series. I just don't love it as much as I want to. I like everything about it screams like I should love it because of the theme, and the mysteries are really good. The reveals are always really good, but there's something about the characters and the relationships that seem very a little over dramatic for my taste. And I also feel like sometimes sometimes the characters just seem very like out of character suddenly. Like they're best friends, but then they're suddenly thinking that somebody did it, and I'm like, you know, you couldn't convince me my best friend did a huge, like, terrible crime without a ton of evidence, you know? It just seems like some of it's kind of wacky. I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but that's kind of how I feel about it. I might read another one from this series if one catches my eyes, but it's not one that I can like passionately recommend, unfortunately. It's not my favorite, at least. But that is all for now, guys. It was kind of, like I said, a little bit of a shorter reading month, but I did have some really big hits this month. I'd say top ones were Dark Corners by Megan Goldin, Vera Wong, obviously, and A Sprinkle in Time. Those are probably my top hits. And then also just being very excited about Cleo Coyle and Shari LaPena. I'm very excited to try out both of them in the future and read more from them because I really did like their writing styles. So very excited for that. Please let me know, what did you read this month? Have you read anything I mentioned in this video? What are your thoughts on it? I'd love to hear it. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I do post new book content every week on the channel, especially in the mystery genre. So if you like cozy mysteries, historical fiction mysteries, regular old mysteries, thrillers, I talk about it on this channel, and I hope you will join us. Thank you again, and thank you guys for 2,400 subscribers. My mind is just wow. So thank you guys again. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!